Hello students and welcome to our class today. Today's class will focus on simple interest. But first of all, we need to ask ourselves what is interest before we talk about simple interest. An interest, it is an amount of money that you are going to pay or to receive on top of what you borrowed or what you invested. So if I go and borrow a loan from the bank, maybe the loan is of 10,000, but on repaying the loan, I repay with 13,500. So the interest, which is normally denoted by I, will be actually the 13,500 that I'm paying. I subtract the 10,000 that I borrowed. So in this case, 3,500 is actually the interest. So interest is what you pay on top of what you borrowed. Again, we can also calculate the interest. So if I go and save maybe 20,000 for 2 years, and then after the 2 years, and I go withdraw my money, but I find now my money has actually accumulated to maybe 24,000, you will find that now the interest is going to be the 24,000 that I'm going to get. I subtract the 20,000 that I invested, so my money could have earned an interest of 4,000. That's why I said interest can either be what you pay in case you borrowed, or what you receive in case you invested. So the amount of money on top of what you borrowed or what you invested is actually the interest. Interest is normally calculated on two bases. You can have interest calculated on the basis of simple or in the basis of compound. Our focus today will be on a simple interest. Simple interest, it is an interest that is calculated on the money that you borrowed or money that you saved only. Meaning that after 1 year, the interest is going to be a percentage of that amount that you borrowed or you saved. When we go to the second year, the interest actually is going to remain the same. So simple interest is normally constant all through the number of years that that particular loan or that particular investment is going to take place. Let me have an example here. If you go and you save, this is the saving, you make a savings of 10,000 for 3 years in a bank that pays a simple interest of 10% per annum. You have invested 10,000 for 3 years in a bank that pays 10% per annum simple interest. This simply means that if it is simple, the interest is going to be only on this amount that you saved. So year one, interest will be equal to 10% times 10,000. You find that this one is going to give you 1,000. When we go to, this is year one, when we go to year two, interest is going to be 10% times 10,000, which is again 1,000. When we go to year three, interest will be 10% over 10,000, which is again 1,000. So you'll be able to realize in all these 3 years, the interest is calculated on the 10,000 that we saved. And that's why it is giving us a constant of 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. So if, for example, the question was asking, what is the total interest that is going to be obtained? The total interest is going to be 1,000 for year one, plus 1,000 for year two, plus 1,000 for year three, which is actually 3,000. This is the total interest our money is going to earn all through the 3 years. You can be able to remember that this one can actually be calculated once, whereby we can say that interest is going to the principal times rate times time over 100, because rate is always in percentage, and we find that it's going to be 10,000, which is the principal, times the rate, which is 10%, times the time, which is actually a total of 3 years. If you do this calculation, you will find that it is going to be 3,000 once. But what I want you to know from the computation that we have done here is that simple interest is actually calculated on the principal amount only. And because of that, the rate does not change and the principal does not change. Therefore, the interest for each and every year will also remain constant. The interest for each year is going to remain constant. And that is actually what we mean by simple interest. So you can be given several examples whereby you are told to calculate the simple interest. But before that, allow me to also emphasize on something here. In calculating the interest, you need to know this terminology where we have what we call the principal amount, we have the rate, we have time, and we have actually the word interest itself. The principal amount, it is actually the amount that you borrow or invest. The initial amount that you borrow or invest is actually what we refer as the principal amount. The rate, it is always expressed into percentage. It is the rate at which this principal is earning the interest, and the time, it is the duration whereby we are calculating the interest. It can be 1 year, it can be 2 years, or all that. It can also be monthly. And then the interest is now the amount that is going to be on top of the principal after the expiry of the time period that we are going to talk about. So we can come here and we say this, that interest, which is normally denoted by I, is normally calculated as the difference between the total amount after n years minus the principal. Remember, n years, I simply mean in a year. It can be 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, in a year that we are referring to, minus the principal. So, like for example, you can be told this, that a person borrowed a loan of 100,000. A person borrowed a loan of 100,000, and then you are told that this loan was supposed to be paid after 4 years. It was supposed to be paid after 4 years. And now you are told the rate of interest is maybe 5%. Now you are asked to calculate the interest. Interest can be calculated using the formula principal times rate times time, and this rate is always in percentage. So in this case, it is going to be 100,000 that was borrowed, which is our principal amount, times the rate, which is 5%, times the time, which is 4 years. If you calculate this, you will find that this is going to be the same as 20 times 1,000, which is going to be 20,000. You will find that it's going to be 20,000. That is the interest. And if we were told about the amount here, it is normally the principal plus interest. So you will realize the total amount the person is going to pay to clear that loan is going to be 100,000 that he borrowed plus the interest that has accrued. So the person is going to pay a total of 120,000 to clear that loan. That is actually the amount. We can have another scenario whereby you are told that a person had borrowed a loan over a certain amount. Let me don't specify the amount. Maybe you are told that a person borrowed a loan over a certain amount which is not specified. Let us say here the principal, it is actually shillings X. And then the loan was taking a time period which is normally n. It was taking a time of 5 years to be repaid. And then we are given the rate of interest, which is normally denoted by R. It is actually the 8%. And now you are told after 5 years, the person cleared the loan with maybe 155,000. Now the question is, how much interest did the person pay? How much interest did the person pay? Or alternatively, you can ask this: how much did the person borrow? How much did the person borrow? If you are given that the interest was actually 15,000. You are told that a person borrowed a certain amount of money, which is X shillings. It took that particular person 5 years to repay that particular loan. The rate that was charged, the rate of interest is 8%. The total amount was 155,000, and this is actually what was given. So this is very simple. From what we know that amount is normally given by principal plus interest. In this case, the amount is 155,000, and the interest we have been given is 15,000. So in this case, we find that the amount, sorry, rather, here I think we were calculating the principal. You will find that if amount is going to be given by principal plus interest, then we can come here and we say that amount minus interest is equals to principal. So 155,000 minus 15,000 is equals to the principal, which is actually going to be 140,000 is going to be the principal. Think of a case now. Let us have another example whereby you are told a person borrowed a principal which is actually X shillings, and now you are told the interest the person paid for this amount of money is going to be maybe 12,000. Then you are told that the rate is given by 11% and the time is given by maybe 5 years. Now you are asked calculate the principal. You are told you calculate the principal. You need to come here and say that interest is given by the principal times rate of 100 times time. The interest we know is actually 12,000, is going to be given by the principal, which is actually X, times the rate, which is 11%, times time, which is 5. You will find that 5 comes here, 5 goes to 120 times. So we are going to have 12,000 is equals to X times 11 is 11x over 20. Let us remain with x here by multiplying each side by the reciprocal of 11 over 20. The reciprocal of 11 over 20, it is 20 over 11 times 12,000 is equals to 11 over 20 x times 20 over 11. This reciprocal must multiply both sides so that 20 and 20 will cancel, 11 and 11 will cancel, we remain with x. And we can simply say that the x here is going to be given by 20 times 12,000, and then we divide by 11. You will find that the principal amount is giving us, or the principal is 21,818.18. That is actually the principal or the amount of money that was borrowed from that particular financial institution. So with this formula, you can be asked to calculate anything. You can be asked to calculate the interest, you can be calculating the principal rate or even time. So it is a matter of knowing how to play along with it. Thank you very much.